Hi everyone. I thought it might be useful to make the following video to help you out. A lot of you have been sending me messages asking for advice on using Aaron Rash's Impulse Response Pack. This pack allows you to recreate Kurt Cobain's guitar sound from the album In Utero and to simulate the famous quad reverb amp that he used during the recording sessions for Nirvana's last album. The particularity of this quad reverb is that it has Utah speakers, orange label, and not Oxford, blue label. But I won't go into details. Aaron has made a whole bunch of videos on this subject, and he explains it much better than I can. Aaron Rash did an impressive amount of research to create this pack, and I thank him greatly. Using the pack can sometimes be confusing and lack information for the more novice among us, and for those who are not used to using impulse responses. For the proper use of this pack, you will need the following equipment. Step 1. Which guitar? I tried the pack with a whole set of guitars, and it is not necessary in my opinion to have Kurt Cobain's guitar at all costs, or to have an aluminum Velino that is impossible to find for the general public. Using a guitar with the same pickups as Kurt Cobain, Hot Trail, Seymour Duncan SH4, etc. is a real plus of course, but if you can't afford it, use your own guitar. The best thing is to have, in the bridge position and to simulate the big distortions, a humbucker to benefit from more power. Afterwards, if you want to achieve 100% of Cobain's sound, it is clear that I advise you to build a guitar with the specifications of Kurt's. Now, for a reduced budget, it is possible to find a Mustang body for not too much money and install the relevant pickups. On the net, we can find a lot of videos giving advice on this subject, and on my channel, you will also find examples of mods. Step 2. Have overdrive or distortion pedals. For the moment, the pedals used by Kurt Cobain seem more essential to me to simulate the grain of his distortions and obtain something convincing. For my part, I have the following: a Proco Rat distortion, a Boss DS1, a SansAmp Classic, or a Boss DS2. Boss pedals, secondhand, are easily found and for affordable prices. I will share with you, during the video, a small summary table of the pedals used for each impulse response, and according to Aaron's advice. Afterwards, it's really cool to do your own tests, mix the pedals and try them on other impulse responses because you get really excellent sounds. Step 3. Have a computer that doesn't lag too much, a sound card with a minimum of latency to play in real time, and a DAW, an audio interface to load the different plugins. For my part, I have a Focusrite Scarlett 8i6 as a sound card, and as an audio interface I use Cubase 12. My tutorial will be based on this hardware. I don't know all the audio interfaces, but they are probably identical. Step 4. Buy Aaron Rash's Impulse Response Pack and download the free plugin to load them. It is important to re-establish some information about this pack. As I have read, it is not a software or a VST plugin that you just have to load into your DAW, then plug in your guitar, and off you go. You have the sound of Cobain. There are a few steps to take, but they are simple. You just have to understand the logic. To put it simply, an impulse response is a small audio file containing a capture of the sound characteristics of an acoustic environment or an instrument. This is what will simulate the quad reverb speaker, and there are different ones because Aaron used microphones that he positioned in various ways to obtain different sound results. You will need a small plugin to load your impulse responses, and Aaron offers in his video a free plugin that I advise you to install, Fractal Cab Lab R Loader. Now that you have the speaker, you will need the head of the amp to complete your simulation. Step 5. Get Softube Vintage Amp Room or an identical plugin. This plugin recommended by Aaron Rash is paid, so I will use the same plugin as him in the video to make things easier. Similar and free versions exist. The idea is to find a plugin that will simulate a Fender Twin reverb type amplifier head. Those who have Amplitube or Guitar Rig, it should work, but you have to be careful to deactivate the speaker simulation and that your plugin only takes into account the amplifier head. Once everything is gathered, we will be able to move on to the concrete phase, namely the connections of the equipment to connect them to the sound card and the different settings in the audio interface to use the impulse responses of the pack. I assume that your sound card is installed and working correctly in your DAW, and that you know the fundamental principles of use. The first step will be to plug your guitar, for example, into input one of your sound card. The two inputs on the front have an option called Instrument or High Z depending on the model that you will need to activate in your hardware settings. This function allows you to adjust the impedance of your instrument and have a signal with more gain and power. Otherwise, your signal may already not be optimal. Regarding the gain setting on the sound card of your input one, be careful. It will have to be adjusted according to the impulse responses used. Aaron Rash shared in his video the settings of his pedals, and very often the volume of these is very high, and we can quickly go into the red at the gain level and obtain an excess of saturation, or even feedback, which will modify the quality of your distortion. On the contrary, for impulse responses of clean signal like the introduction of Hart Shapebox, for example, it will be necessary to increase the gain of the sound card. It can sometimes also be useful to adjust the volume of the input and output in the Softube Vintage Amp Room plugin. We can note differences in volume between the different impulse responses, and for my part, the clean signal and the signal combined with the distortion will be the subject of 2 different audio tracks in my DAW. Once your guitar is connected, open a mono audio track in your DAW. Before adding all kinds of plugins, check that your clean signal works normally in your software and without sound degradation. It is normal that the sound of your guitar is a little soulless, since now we will have to give it a certain coloring thanks to the plugins by adding an amplifier head, which will allow us to adjust the equalization of your sound and add an impulse response from a speaker so that the magic of the sound of In Utero comes to life. For the Softube Vintage Amp Room plugin, Aaron Rash created 2 presets according to the sound of Kurt's guitar tracks on the album In Utero. I advise you to save them to be able to easily switch from one to the other. So there is the boxy tone and the presence tone. Here are the settings. In the comments under Aaron Rash's video, I read that an error had crept into the settings he offers in his pack, and he himself confirmed by email to a user that the bright button was down for the boxy and the presence tone, and of course you should not activate the vibrato. I also add the nasty clean tone, not mentioned by Aaron Rash, and which he uses on the song Rape Me. You can see its settings in his video, and I find that the crunch sound of the guitar is much better for the Wave Me impulse response. I also advise you, as Aaron did, to record a whole set of tracks in the same session, and on each of them you will put a different impulse response and the tone settings on Amp Room. Don't forget to identify them and give them a name, otherwise you will really get lost. This will save you a lot of time, and you will be able to switch from one impulse response to another to have fun. While making this video, I discovered by chance something that I did not expect. The order in which you load the Amp Room and Fractal Cab Lab plugin affects the sound quality. I really did not think that it had an impact, at least on Cubase. In Aaron's video, we noticed that he puts Amp Room first and then the impulse response loader. Without noticing, in my settings I had done the opposite, and I was rather satisfied with the sound quality. So I tested the sense of the plugins that Aaron uses, and at home it gives me something that is not really great. The sound seems much more muffled to me, less dynamic. Moreover, several of you have shared with me the fact that the sound of your guitar was like that. This setting could therefore explain your concern about sound quality. You can try like me, and you will tell me if it helped you. As sometimes, I also got lost in all this choice of impulse responses and the different settings, I offer you a visual summary in the form of 2 tables. A first table mentioning in chronological order the different impulse responses that Aaron Rash presents to us, and a second table with those that are part of the pack, but which are not in demonstration. I took each of them and tried to assign them the right tone. I also established a color system to more quickly visualize the pedals used or the guitars. I will ask you to be indulgent. This table may contain some errors, and we could discuss together the modifications of this document. I will put a Google Drive link in the description if you want to recover all the screenshots of this video and adapt the document to your equipment. Well, I think I have given you all the necessary elements and details that I wanted to transmit to you for a better use of the pack. I hope that this can help you. Do not hesitate to ask your questions in the comments, and I will try to answer them. In the meantime, see you later, friends, and turn the volume up, and let's test the pack. If you can give a little like and subscribe to the channel to support it, that's always a pleasure. Thank you, and see you next time. As you will have understood, I am only a simple artificial intelligence which represents the voice of Dave Wire, English allowing access to a wider audience. Ciao, friends.